Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Keeping It Real on Purpose with our series Real Talk with Life Coaches. And I am your host, Edna White. And today we have an amazing guest with us, Aja Rutledge. She is, you ready for this, audience? She is, I had it up before. You notice I'm getting my teleprompter up, right? But she is a trauma trained, self aligned alignment coach who helps women reconnect with themselves through wellness and trauma healing. With firsthand experience in healing her own trauma and a six month trauma certification, she guides women to live in self alignment. Welcome, Asia. And I'm so excited you're from Mexico already. I love it. So, welcome to New York.
Oh, New York. Okay, thank you. I'm originally from New York.
Okay, all right. What made you go to Mexico?
Mexico,
Yeah.
healing.
Ah.
Yeah, the
It
I
was your.
came.
Some people have those, places that just calls to them. That was that for you? Did it call to you?
No, it
No.
wasn't that. It was no, it was the middle of COVID. The U.S. was doing really wild things.
Okay.
Like I said, I'm a trauma coach. I had my own trauma, and I
Yeah.
just wasn't feeling safe in the States at all.
Okay.
And
Okay.
so it was really a matter of going somewhere where I felt safe and I felt like I could walk around and not just really be terrified, every
Right.
day.
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah, I came to Mexico and I got that. I got to, be outside. I came to like a beach town. And so a lot of
Right.
like the indoor outdoor restrictions didn't really exist because a lot of stuff is wide open here.
Yeah.
So it was just a totally different feeling. So that's what brought me here.
Okay. So let's talk about your experience in trauma. Like, I know both of us have experienced trauma and we both are trauma informed coaches. Let's talk about your experience about that, around that area.
I mean, yeah. So, like many people who might not even realize it, it started with me in childhood, started from
Hmm.
day one. I had a parent who was narcissistic, and I thought that was how a lot of households were. And then as I
Right.
got older, I just started realizing, like, I don't know what's wrong with this, but something's wrong with this. And so I started doing my own research because I'm like,
Right.
this ain't adding up. And then
Right.
I had got really caught in like learning about narcissists, thinking that
Hmm.
was the healing, right?
Okay.
And so I became like a master on narcissists and all this stuff, but I hadn't been doing my own healing. And then years passed, more trauma happened in my adult life. And when COVID hit, because I did have childhood trauma, I had CPTSD, which though at the time I did not
Right.
know that I had
Right.
CPTSD.
Yeah.
And when COVID hit, it kind of threw me back into like a long-term emotional flashback.
Hmm.
And so it just felt very it felt like my childhood again. I didn't have any choices. I wasn't safe. I couldn't make any decisions to
Right.
make myself safe, all these kind of things. And I hit a point where I got physically sick.
Oh,
And
wow.
so when I go to the doctors, they'd all say nothing's wrong. All your labs are normal.
Right.
Everything is
Right.
great. And
And
I'm
you
like,
don't know your body.
I'm sorry. I'm sitting here telling you, I
Yes.
literally cannot work. I cannot clean. I cannot cook. Like I have no energy.
Right.
What are you talking about? And they know everything's great. Come back in a year. And so I had to start to figure it out on my own because I wasn't getting the help. And so in that journey, it took me into trauma and the effects of trauma on the body, the effects of
Yes.
trauma, how it stays in your body if
Oh,
you're not,
yes.
eliminating it, and just all the things that happen
Hmm.
to your body as trauma accumulates and as it stays. And it's like, oh, no wonder this is where I am. This doesn't
Right.
make it fun, but
Right.
no wonder. So just kind of rolling that back and really learning how to retrust my intuition, because that was
Right.
something that was kind of beaten out of me, I was just gaslit, my whole life.
Mhm.
So what you thought is not what you thought. What you see
Right.
is not what you see. And so I stopped trusting my intuition and reconnecting with my intuition and reconnecting with my body and learning how to let those guide me in terms
Yeah.
of what is needed, what do I need to do.
Hmm.
And it's so interesting working with people because they have no concept of flow and letting the body guide and the intuition guide. And even if they um, start to grasp it, they fight against it so bad. It's like, no,
Hmm.
no, I have to do this thing. I
Hmm.
think I told you I'm on the end of getting over a cold. And
Yeah.
I've literally, today's the first day since Friday that I'm like got up. Like I've been in my
Right.
bed. I've been coloring. I've been reading. Like I've been in my bed. And
Hmm.
I was talking to a friend of mine. She's like, "Oh my God, that's so amazing that you've just been in your bed." And I'm like, "But I was sick." Like, yeah, I don't know the last time, even if I was sick, that I just
Yeah. And that some women are like that. We get like that because life kind of takes us on that roller coaster. Not even a roller coaster. Is it a roller coaster? Or maybe
no,
the
it's I
that
think it's just the busyness,
yeah,
right? I think
busyness. I hate that word. I hate
me
that
too.
busy. I hate busy. When somebody says busy to me, I'm like, oh
Oh yeah.
no.
They
Yeah,
think it's
no,
a
that's not
badge,
good.
but it's not good. Yeah.
No. It takes you through life takes you through this craziness. And I was just telling another guest for my show, I found myself in such a rush all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I would rush to go to the bathroom. I was like forcing myself to urinate. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, where am I going? And I finally figured it out
Yeah.
like last week. I'm like,
Last week.
why am I yeah, no, serious. It was last week. And I said, why am I rushing to pee? Like it just doesn't make any sense. And I had to catch myself. Life got me in that space. We
Mm-hmm.
don't think about it. We really don't think about it. Like we honestly do not. The other thing that happened to me is I'm always when I cook now. It's only me here. My kids are big. They have their own homes, and I mean it's me and my pup. So I'm rushing to clean up the counter. So I'm not even eating. Like I have my food ready, right? I have it sitting there, piping hot, the way I like it, and I'm rushing to wipe down everything, wash the dishes and everything. I was like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
And I figured it was a trauma response, and I just wrote about this people pleasing, and it was to please somebody in case somebody comes in. Isn't that crazy?
Mm.
How
I mean, it's normal.
trauma
Yeah.
trauma really affects every modality of your life.
Yeah. And that's what I try to tell people because people are so convinced that like nothing's wrong with me. So
Yeah,
nothing's
for
happening.
life.
And I'm like, every part of your life, it's happening. You just think it's normal because you
Yeah,
have no idea what the
yeah,
alternative could be,
yeah.
you know?
Exactly,
And it's
exactly.
interesting because now that I live here
Hmm.
and I don't live in the States,
Right.
it's not life. It's actually the US way of living.
Yes.
And so, I'll never forget this. I was telling a friend about this when one of the things that I started working with a somatic therapist in my
Yes.
journey.
Hmm.
And I never forget one of the things she started me off doing was she would tell me to take walks. Well, I think I was already taking walks. And she
Yeah.
said, okay, next time when you take a walk, the only thing I want you to do is make sure you feel every step that your foot takes on the ground.
Oh, that's
And
great.
she said,
That's so
I don't
good.
care how far you go, how fast you go, how many calories, like, I don't
So
care about
good.
any of that. Just
Yeah.
feel every step hit the ground. And that causes you to slow down and that
Right.
causes you to be present. And
Right.
so, and like part of healing our trauma is you have to slow down because part of the problem is our nervous systems are in such activation. And
Yep.
because just the way
Exactly.
that the US functions, we're
Yeah.
still staying in activation. And so we never give it a chance to get regulated and for our
Right.
body to feel safe. And so
Hmm.
I've gotten to a place of like safety and regulation. And I went back home to visit, and my friend knows I take these walks. And so he's like, I'm gonna go for a walk with you. My cousin, she's gonna meet us there, whatever. I'm like, all right, whatever. we get to the like where she's meeting us, and then all of a sudden they're walking and they're like walking. Like, so I'm not even trying to keep up with them, right? Because I'm
Yeah.
like, what are you doing? And so he comes back and he's like, what's going on? I said, what are y'all doing? And he's like, we're walking. I said, no, y'all are damn near running.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't helping. Like,
Yeah.
you think you're doing a good thing, but you're
Yeah.
still triggering yourself
Yeah.
because this is not, you're not present. You don't know what's going on. You don't even know what you've passed. You don't
It's
even know
true.
what you're feeling. You're just
Very true.
walking. And you
Yeah.
think because they say walking is good for you, that you're doing a good thing. But this isn't
No,
a good thing because you're
it's true.
still in this crazy state that you're doing it in.
Right.
And so it doesn't make it good just because you did the thing.
It's
So I
true.
said, I'm not gonna ruin y'all walk. Y'all go ahead, but I'm going to back here because
Yeah.
doing feels stressful, and I'm not even doing it with y'all. And so
Yeah.
I'm not in that life anymore. I'm not doing that anymore.
It's true. That's true. When you were talking, it reminded me of a story that I moved to China for a year to teach English, and totally different atmosphere. What you said, totally.
Mm-hmm.
It's just totally different. It's totally different. You're relaxed, no matter what's going on. You're just relaxed.
Mm-hmm.
So we went to the Great Wall.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I had made up in my mind when I was on the bus, I'm going to live in the moment every step that I took. I'm just going to enjoy it. Now, this is right after, about a couple of years after I had a car accident where I had, I have broken hip, with the femur coming out of my leg, and
Mm-hmm.
everything is like just starting to like mend. Because again, you and I are on the same page walking. God started talking to me in this walking thing, like just
Mm-hmm.
walking, touching the flowers, blah, blah, blah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Go to fast forward. I'm in China and I get to the Great Wall. This is like one of the best things ever in your life if you wanted it. So I think I'm maybe the third oldest person there. Everybody was kind of young. It was the 25 of us going. And so the young ones just took off, like they're walking. I'm like, what the heck are they doing? He was like, are you all right? And I said, no, just go ahead. So as I'm walking, I'm noticing the little flowers growing out of the wall, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm noticing the bugs. I'm just doing this whole like immersion of the Great Wall.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm telling you, I had so much fun. I wasn't tired like them. At the end, they were all tired. They wanted to go. So they was like, oh, you're gonna walk back down? And I was like, no, I'm gonna zip line down. They were like, you took the longest. You mean to tell me you're gonna zip line? I said, no, you guys were there shorter, and you at the same spot I am. I'm wondering
Mm-hmm.
who did what.
Yeah.
And it just came to me like they weren't in a moment. They just were like, oh, we got to conquer this. And
Yep.
I always asked them, do you remember what we did? Like, yeah, we went to the
Mm-hmm.
Great Wall. They couldn't tell you step by step what we did. They couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
They couldn't tell you because they were in a moment, like you said. They weren't not in the moment. They were not, present. They were thinking of the end goal, getting to the end, and that's really important. We always concern ourselves with getting to the end and not what's happening in the moment.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, and then that's what trauma does too, right? It keeps you either in the past or in the
Right.
future, and you're so busy trying to plan or protect or
Yeah.
prepare, and
Yes.
that you're not just right there. And it was so amazing when I started doing that walk, because the first year I
Mhm.
do those walks, rain or shine, it didn't matter.
Right.
And my dog was so sick of me because she'd be like, not again. But it didn't, I was like, I have to do this. I feel like this is saving my life.
Yeah.
And I remember when I first felt myself coming out of like fight or flight,
Yeah.
and I had no idea that I had been living in a state of fight or flight for like
Mhm.
my whole life.
Yeah.
And it was only until I started having these spurts of not being in it
Yeah. That you
that I
realize. Yeah.
realized, like, oh, that wasn't normal.
Yeah.
That's not how you're supposed to feel. That's
Yeah.
not what life is supposed to feel like inside.
Yeah.
And I think there's so many people living in that state and they think that's the normal state. And
Absolutely.
it's just
Absolutely.
not. And there's a whole nother way of being that
Hmm.
feels so much better,
Yeah.
but I even see it like when I come back to visit, like I have to be very intentional
Hmm.
about like, nope, I'm not doing those 20 things today.
Yeah.
Or yeah, I'm just gonna sit here and rest today, right?
Yeah.
Like I have to be
Yeah.
very cognizant
Yeah.
not to get swept up into like this pace that
Yeah.
they force, people into.
Hmm.
And but it's so important because, so many women in general and then Black women have autoimmune diseases and all these things, and
Yes.
it's not for no reason.
Right.
And so, we might think, oh, it's not connected, but it's directly
It's so
connected.
connected.
Yeah. So people have got to take care of themselves.
Hmm.
It's important because we're
It's really
dying out here, like
Yeah, yeah,
literally.
we are. And we're dying from emotions and not disease.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
dying
And
from
you can
emotional
change
things.
it. The thing
Yes.
is, you could change it if you just
Hmm.
take the
Yeah,
time, right? And
right.
so
Yeah.
it's
I
been a journey.
just recently I went to the doctors, and I'm not on any kind of medication at my age. And so when he saw me, they did some kind of thing and saw that, had like artery things, and then my cholesterol was like a couple of numbers under the high number. So I asked them, I said, hey, what's the high number? And they told me, I said, is that statistically for everybody, or
Hmm.
the number you guys came up with it? What is it? Where's that number come from? So they were shocked that I asked this question because I want to know.
Yeah.
And I said, that's funny because my Greek doctor, that I saw just last week, his cholesterol is three something, but his doctor says he's okay. So I'm wondering, I'm under whatever the number was. I think it's like
Hmm.
maybe, and I'm saying, why are you giving this to me? So,
Hmm.
oh, to prevent you in 10 years from having a heart attack. And I was like, 10 years? It sounded weird to me. I was like, 10 years? So what is it doing to my body now when I'm taking this? I found out the hard way. I was very allergic. I was getting cramps everywhere. My arms were literally twisting. It was bad. It was really bad. So I said, okay, I can't do the medicine. I got to figure out what's going on with me. So I sat down and I was thinking. I was like, okay, what is making my cholesterol act the way it is? You know, what am I doing? What am I doing irregular? Well, I'm already gluten free and
Hmm.
lactose free. So my go to is chicken.
Hmm.
Everything is chicken, right? So I go to see the nutritionist. She's asking me what I'm eating. I'm telling her. And she says, are you menopausal? I said, yeah. You're eating chicken? Yeah. The hormones in the chicken and you with hormones is intertwining. I was like, but I love chicken. I love chicken. Like when I go out, that's the only thing I can eat without anything on it that I can eat. So
Yeah.
um she says, can you just start for a week or two and see? Literally, I'm on my second week. I'm telling you that I feel hot sweats, all those things that I was having. None. None.
Oh, interesting.
And I was like, so she said, explain to me what they're shooting the chicken up with
Hmm.
is affecting me hormonally.
Hmm.
And I'm telling you, when I used to say, I'd be in that bed sweating like a hog, like I was doing an exercise, like I was running in my sleep, the whole bed would be drenched. And I
I
have the
believe
air
it.
conditioning on, and that's how bad it was. But I'm getting up in the morning. I'm not feeling like I'm foggy brained. I couldn't believe it. But it like you said, you have to do your due diligence. You have to find out for yourself. You got to do the work to find out what's affecting you, because everything may not what affects somebody else may not affect you,
Right.
but it's all different. It affects you. So you have to pay attention to your intuition.
Yep.
that intuition works for a reason,
Yeah.
and pay attention to your body, the alarms that it sends off.
Yeah. Exactly. And it's interesting because some of the people that I get to work with me, they are always, and I get it, I know why, but like they're looking for an exact formula.
Yeah, there's none.
And there is no exact formula, especially in trauma healing,
Yeah,
right? And so that's why one of my biggest things is reconnecting you to your
right,
intuition, because I need you to tell me
right,
if this thing is for you or not.
right,
And I need
exactly.
you to be clear on
Right.
it, right?
Yeah.
Because I can offer you 4 ideas,
Hmm.
but one might take for you and the other 3 might not. And a different one might take for me. So
Right.
you tell me telling you what works for me
Right.
is not your path.
Right.
And even like what to move into next. I
Right.
used to have clients say, okay, what's the next phase? You have to tell me.
Right.
And they'd say, what do you mean? Like,
Right.
you can't just tell me. It's like, look, my path is not your path. You
Exactly.
have to learn how to trust what comes up for you. Like for me, I would trust the flow. So I
Right.
would notice that certain terms might show up over and over again.
Right. Okay. Can you
Or
give us an example of that? Can you give me an example of that? What do you mean?
yeah, so like for example, when I first started this, I was like learning about like parasympathetic and sympathetic
Okay.
nervous system, and then like nervous system regulation would keep coming up,
Okay.
and so then I moved into nervous system regulation because I follow those things. If there's something else that'll come up. If it goes away, and it doesn't pop up again, then it just came up for then, right? But when things are repetitive for me, when things there's like some pull that I have towards it, then I feel like that's like it's pulling on me to say this is the next step. Does that make sense? And so when you follow that, um, only
Yeah.
you know the next step for you, right? Like we can talk about
Gotcha.
it, we can
Yeah.
guide, we can talk about what has happened to you and what you're
Right.
trying to heal. But I don't know
Right.
these whispers that keep coming up. I don't know the things that are showing up every day in the podcast you're listening to or the books. And it's like, hey, this
Hmm.
thing just keeps showing up for me, right? And so being
Right.
able to
Right.
pay attention to these things and move
Hmm.
into that, I think is important because I even had a client, she kept always asking me, what do I do? And I'm like, it's not my journey. What I will tell you, is
Yeah.
let's keep talking, but you have to trust yourself. And she ended up on this whole path on ADHD and didn't know she had ADHD before that. And I said, see, if you follow my path, we
Wow.
wouldn't have got to ADHD because I don't have ADHD.
Right.
Right. So like it's that, and that's what I mean, right? And so then we could work through,
Right.
what she was working through with ADHD and how that showed up, and even the trauma that
Hmm.
showed up around that she didn't realize, was connected to that. But being able to trust yourself on this guide of this path, I call when people sincerely surrender to the journey of healing their trauma, I call it a spiritual
Okay.
path because it is
Right.
definitely the thing that gets you back to the core of who you are. Trauma has
Well, that's good.
completely disconnected
That's
you
good.
from yourself, right? And so this is the
That's
thing that
really,
pulls
really
you
good.
back into the core of you if you let it.
Yeah, that's really good. That is so, let me just tell you, that's so good because I speak to a lot of people and I think the connection, I always, and this is how I'm thinking, sin is something that kind of disconnects you from your
Mm-hmm.
spirit, from yourself. Often we think it's, from, God or whatever, but if you don't know yourself, how can you know God,
Mm-hmm.
So what you just said, it just solidifies spiritualism is about being connected to yourself first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's about coming back to that. It really is.
Yeah. Exactly. And that's why I call myself a self-alignment coach versus a trauma coach. Because once you get
Oh,
back
that's
in
good.
alignment with yourself, it
Yeah.
goes beyond trauma, right?
Yeah.
Because now you're gonna move in the world differently. Now
Right.
you're not gonna let people push you fast when you need to go slow. You're not gonna let
Okay.
somebody tell you this thing didn't happen when you know it happened,
Right.
right? You're not gonna do
Right.
these things. You're gonna move in a different way once you have gotten back in
Right.
alignment with yourself. And so it starts with trauma healing.
Gotcha.
But then once you're aligned, this is a
Right.
different way of being.
Oh, that's so good. You're just giving me more food for thought, and I know you're giving my audience a whole lot of food for thought. That's like the challenge, you know. I always often talk about, you know, wording, you know, learning what words mean before we apply them, you
Mm-hmm.
know, to our lives or even start to say them. But what
Mm-hmm.
you're just dropping nuggets on these words, man. And it's that's monumental right there. What you're saying is, whoo, so that's stuff. That's some
I mean,
stuff
I
right there.
look, I don't speak anything I haven't journeyed through myself,
Oh, absolutely, I agree. Yes,
right? So
right.
I'm saying it because I've done it and I live it now,
Yes.
and I'm telling you, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, I would have
Uh-huh.
never thought that I would move the way I move now,
Gotcha.
and so yeah, and it's open to everybody. We all
Yeah,
have
absolutely.
intuition. Nobody's
Yes.
special,
Yeah.
right? We're just
Everybody can get some of that.
yeah, exactly. Everybody can get some of that.
Everybody
You
can
just got
get
to
there.
do the work
Everybody
for it.
has that ability to get there, which is great. It's a great thing to have that everybody can get there, you know?
Hmm. Yeah, it's
Everybody can get
accessible to all, and so that
Yes, it
means
is.
are you willing? That's the only
Are you
question that's
willing?
left.
That's it. That's wonderful. So tell us what you have in play coming up, maybe some events, you know, how the audience can get in touch with you, you know,
Yeah,
and just tell us some things about you, what we can do to get you out there.
sure. So I'm on Instagram and TikTok at
Okay.
Healing with Asia.
Okay.
And my website is my name, AsiaRutledge.com. I'm currently working on a membership, so it hasn't
Okay.
released yet, but I'm going to release that in the fall. And then
Awesome.
right now I have a guide that I call it. It's called Finding Your Calm.
Mm-hmm.
And so I figure with all the chaos going on in the world, people really need to learn how to like find their moments of calm within themselves in the
Right.
midst of all the chaos. And so it's
That's
really a
awesome.
nervous system regulation guide,
Right.
but it teaches people in practical ways things they can start and stop doing to start creating safety
Yeah.
in their nervous system, which will help them
Right.
feel calmer.
Oh,
And
nice.
so
That's
they
really
can
nice.
get that guide. I can send you the link and they can get that guide and then they'll be on my newsletter, which
Absolutely.
I will let them know what else is going on with me.
All right. So you know that will be at the bottom of this video, and it will also be available on audio as well for 2025. So we want you to keep listening. And Asia, we want to thank you for being here today because truly you dropped some nuggets and some information that we needed to hear. And this brings us to the end of the show. But remember to always have courage, have fun, and most of all, keep it real. This is Edna White and my esteemed guest, Aja
Th-
Rutledge. Say
Thank
goodbye
you
for
for
now.
having me.
You're welcome.